Hello everyone, welcome back to aetutsplus.com. Once again, this is Gottfried Karl Heinrich Hofmann from Rgb Pictures speaking, and today we're on the third day of creating a nice candle scene in Blender 2.5. And we've reached the step where the basic modeling and the basic simulation and shading and everything is done. So we can start with the fun part, and that's adding all the small details and brushing things up so it's looking way better and a lot more lifelike. And yeah, actually, to me, that's always the most fun part, but I guess there are other people around who like modeling more, or maybe people like the physics simulation, but I like compositing, I like brushing things up. So, well, one little detail, and that's about here the emitter. In the very first part, when I showed you the final project, the emitter was inside the candle, but we don't need this in this case because look at the tip of the wick. You'll be able to see it soon. Yeah, this is a very good shader we got here, actually better than the original one I had, and so we won't need to change the position of the emitter, which is very good because at this point of the project, changing the emitter position sometimes yields weird artifacts, which we maybe had to correct, and yeah, better avoid to do certain stuff at a certain stage. And so I'm very happy that we don't need this, and yeah, we can get rid of this small circle here by compositing, which is also quite easy. So yeah, let's go ahead. First, I'd like to change the lighting a bit and turn on the screencast key status tool. It's not turned on yet. You can easily turn on add-ons using the user preferences, and in the add-ons panel, check the Blender Screencast Key Status tool, which you can get from blenderartist.org forums. It's a very cool thing if you do screencasts, and really helpful. And now let's just start it, because I guess I never showed you how to use this here. Just start it, and now you get here on the bottom the screencast key is showing, which is very cool. And now let me position the light a little more below, further down, and yeah, actually you could even get inside the domain, which I'm not doing this time, because I guess when it's at the tip of the candle flame, that's really okay. And the lightning also should have a different color, because a light that is emitted from a candle usually has an orangey touch. So let's make the light a little bit more orange, and I guess we can brighten things up. And now let's see how the render is looking. Oh, might not be perfect. Let's see how the stuff is looking when we get way too much of this orange look. Maybe it's just not enough energy. Let's go up to some 3.5, and yeah, make it a little less orange and more towards the white. And let's see. I guess yeah, it's that's better. And now for the bottom part. Actually, this is where I wanted to have the in the world to have the ambient occlusion take an effect, but I guess it might look a lot better if we don't have it. Yeah, now we got the shade around the wick is no longer there, which means the transition is harsher, but I guess this sells everything a lot better now. And yeah, I guess also that we got a little much specularity going on the wax. Oh, haha, I didn't even change it. Yeah, let's go down and make it a little harder. And now let's see once again. And it, unfortunately, that's showing. It's better. It's better, and I hope no one will notice this little shade here, because actually we should normally we should get rid of this, but let's move on. We get a lot better look now already, a lot more candle-like, and the next thing would be to add some wind, so the candle will flicker. And it's also very easy. We just need to add a force field using Shift A, and in this list there is a force field, and we got wind, and yeah, practically that's what we want. Let me hit G and position it somewhere up there. And now we need to rotate it around the x-axis. X. And let's see, 90, wrong, minus 90, yeah. So first 90 and now hit the minus. And now we got the right direction. And if we change the strength, now we see that it's going to the right direction. But let's start with a strength of 0 for now and position it. So here, numpad 7, and you see it's not aligned very good, so we can align it here. And let's see from, yeah, we also need to go way up to get it right where the flame is. And yeah, now we got, actually we can get a little nearer. So yeah, I guess this might be correct. And now let's animate this. And since it's gonna flicker, we don't need to animate it by hand, but let's simply add a keyframe somewhere. It doesn't matter at which position. So let's go there and add a keyframe to the wind, hitting I on the keyboard. And now we got our keyframe here, and we can select the curve in the animation panel. Actually, I changed the entire setup to animation now, and here we are in the F curve editor actually, and we got it already selected. Now we can choose key and add F curve modifier, and let's just use noise first. And now we can hit, pretty cool, we can hit, I want to get this up, and it seems like it doesn't like it. Much better now. What we can do now in the editor is we can hit M and change the kind of noise we got here, because this would not really work out, because the flame doesn't react directly to the wind, but it takes a while. It's got some damping, and if you wouldn't see anything if the noise would be this small, because the damping would delete everything down to 0. So let's first make things bigger. Here, this is the scaling in the time, and also change the amplitude quite a bit. And we might want to add some more finer detail. Yeah, with a little bit of detail added, things are working quite well, right? So we got quite some of this detail added, and with this kind of noise, we can scrub now through the timeline and see the wind changing, all time. And actually, I think that it might be a little better if we had only those tips of the curve so that there are also parts where it's not moving. So let's move it down a little, the entire curve. So here now we got only a few tips, and all the other thing is down, so it's actually blowing to the other direction, as you can see up here in the camera perspective. And now we can add F-curve modifier limit. Minimum. Yeah, here it is. So, perfect. Now we'll have a little bit of wind or no wind. Perfect. Now let's go back to the default view. And now let's see what's happening when we bake once again, because this will really add a little bit of life to our flame. So, select the domain once again. First free all bakes, and then change the divisions and change it back to get clean cache. And actually I think we've reached a step where we can bake everything. So we can bake the entire scene. And yeah, use a high resolution now of 2, and now let's bake how everything should look, and also change the animation range to 250 frames. It should be a little more than 10 seconds. Now I save and I'll hit bake. So now that we did the hopefully final and last baking, let's see how we can composite things. But before, one little information. I baked a second time with a divisions number of 1 again, because I just think that looks better. And well, what we need to do now is we want to composite the flame with a glow effect over the candle. So let me render first. We got this 2 objects we need to separate now in order to get a good glow effect that's also composited over the candle, because otherwise the candle would glow too, and that's not what a real candle flame looks like. So let's separate the candle from everything else by using render layers. And one thing about render layers and working with the smoke simulation is that you should not move your domain between layers if you want to keep your baked data, because moving it to another layer is considered moving the domain, and thus the voxel data in it is discarded. Your entire cache is lost if you do this. So we're only gonna move the candle and keep everything else on the layer 1. And to move the candle to another layer, hit M. Now we move it to the second layer. And now let's build 2 render layers here. Let's call the first one flame, and add a second one for the candle. And for the flame layer, we want to include, for compositing, the current layer, only the layer 1 where it's on, but for rendering, we wanted to include both our current stuff and the candle, because this will then lighten up the candle and cast shadows on it. And on the candle layer, the same thing, we want both layers to be affected, but for compositing, we only want our candle to see. So let's switch over to the compositor. Best way to do is to change your entire setup to compositing. And now we need to render once again, so our compositor gets the data it needs. Yeah, this takes a while, but you see the flame is not rendered now. And when we hit use nodes, we got a scene with the flame, and a scene with the, let's hit input render layers. The one layer is the flame, and the second layer, render layer, should be the candle. And now first let's put things back together. Unfortunately we don't have a lot of room there. Maybe if we zoom out a little. And the way to do this is to add a so-called alpha over node, which just means that you got two images and they are positioned on top of each other with regards to the alpha channel. And now if we put this out again, see, perfectly aligned, and we got actually the same image we had when we rendered it before we separated the layers. And it's already pretty good because we don't need to mask out the part at the bottom of the flame because you just can't see it because the wax is so bright. And so let's move on and create the blurred, or the blurred background of the flame, the glare, or how you call this? Well, the shining ring around the flame you see when you watch a candle. And to create this, we need to work on the candle, of course. And let's choose filter blur. We don't use the glare because this will give us artifacts in this case, so we'll need to have to blur it manually and composite it back together. So let's also add a viewer node to see what's happening. Everything is happening in the background. And let's use fast Gaussian for the blur, because that one's giving us a nice 50 and 50. This is giving us a nice kind of blurriness. The best one usually is Gaussian, but in this case we want a little bit of extra blurriness outside, so let's choose fast Gaussian. And yeah, you see that this is practically just the colors of your normal flame, but it's very white, and usually the blur around is it's reddish, so yellowish, reddish, sometimes orange, and that's because the flame usually is too bright, but it's actually a reddish color of the flame, but just because it's so bright you see it as white, and the blur around this has the usual flame color. So we need to work on the colors a bit, and we also need to work on the part at the bottom where it's bluish. We need to remove this. So let's work on the colors, and first let's choose the Rgb curves. And once again, first let's see what's happening in the Rgb curves. So let's firstly remove the parts down there. So we got here our candle flame, that's nice, and maybe there we can increase the contrast quite a bit. Yeah. Especially maybe we want to get rid of the bluish part on the bottom, so there's not so much of the blue. Yeah, that's the way to go, I think. Yeah, this should be blurred pretty easily, so let's see what's happening when we blur it. Not much, right? Not quite much. So let's see. As again, actually it is. Okay, we can get rid of a few more parts. And I also think we might want to go down here to get rid a little bit more of the blue. Actually, don't change the single channels, because maybe if you think we can reduce the blue in the channel, you will get the exact opposite in the final composite, because the Gaussian blur is not really working as you might expect it. So let's not work on the channels, but only on the complete composite. And now the next thing we should do is a little color correction. Fortunately, we can do this by choose color balance. And here we're only interested in the gain value. So let's check out how this looks when we blur it. Okay, color corrected image, blurred image, viewer node, nothing to see. There's something wrong. Okay, it's going from the render layer to the Rgb curves, and from there to the color balance. And the color balance is showing the viewer, and something's wrong. Let's see what's happening if we choose the Rgb curves directly to the viewer. Yeah, we see this. We had it connected to the FAC value and not to the actual image. So, once again, it's in the FAC and not... I don't get this, remove this. And now, we are only interested in the gain. And let's change the color of the gain. And maybe make it darker. And now we'll get a lot more reddish, orange, more like orangish reddish, depending on our style we want. And now let's see how the things are looking after they are blurred. Because yeah, it's pretty good actually. Let's see, maybe a little more towards the orange direction. Yeah, nice and warm. Yeah, actually seeing from the reference images I got in the background, I guess this would be the best color, but let's give us some artistic freedom and make it not that extreme. And now, yeah, we got a flame. Now we need to add it back together with the original flame. And we can, of course, do this by Shift A and add a mix node, which will mix our two images, the original flame and a new blurred background. And now we see how well, yeah, that's looking pretty good. Hey, that's quite something. And now let's see. Actually, now what we need to do is switch the alpha over and exchange the original flame with the one with the blurred background. And oh, what's happened here? Well, the problem is that it's a blended compositor specific problem, and that's that the mix node isn't mixing alpha channels. But there's a cheap hack around this. That's quite easy. The idea is just to use converter node, where we got a set alpha, so we can give our combined image a new alpha channel, a different one from the original one. And now we of course need to create an alpha channel some way, and we can do this by Shift A and once again converter color ramp. And see, some cool feature about the Blender Compositor is that it's already working on the connection is going automatically, and it thinks about a connection that might work out pretty well. And what we need to do is go from the mix value into the FAC value from the color ramp. Now let's see what's happening in the viewer, and now we see this will be our new alpha channel. So let's choose the image from this here, and the image from the color ramp should be our new alpha channel. And now when we go alpha over, wow, perfect. That's been so easy. And you might think that we are finished now, but yeah, let me show something else you can do with the compositor quite easily. And that's changing for example, the size of your flame, because I think this flame is it's just too small for this kind of candle, so let's make it bigger. For this, we'll hit once again Shift A, and now distort, scale. So let's scale the flame, and let's see now where are these connected. This one comes from the image of the Rgb curve, so let's add it here and remove this here. And this one is going pretty far actually. It's going up to the image of the mix node, so let's change it here. And currently we shouldn't have changed anything, but now if we increase the Y value, our flame grows bigger. Isn't this cool? So let's maybe get it up here, and you see down here, like let me grow it even bigger. And now you can see down here that the part that we should have masked out is growing downwards, so we need to increase the position upwards. So we have to move the flame now upwards, so it's going back to the white part where it can't be seen. And yeah, that's actually as easy as the scaling. We just need to add another node, once again distort, and this time translate. And things are already set quite okay. Let's add this here once again and remove this one, and let's also add it in the mix node. And now for a translation you need to set values quite high low. So let's work ourselves upwards until things can't be seen anymore, and yeah, we're about there. It can't be seen anymore. Maybe there will be a few artifacts. I guess this is a good setting. And now our flame is bigger. And all due to a little bit of compositing, no need to re-render or rebake anything. And well, actually we've gone pretty far, and let me just check whether we got any more time to add a few other improvements one might think of. Yeah, here I am again, and well, let me show you a few things I have forgotten. First, if you render now, you will notice that the edges of the flame are a little bit blurred. Well, we'll see this in a second. And yeah, that's because of the compositing. Let me show you. The mix node currently is mixing the blurred image of the candle flame with the normal one. And because it's 50-50, it's half blurred candle flame and half normal one, you get the blurred edges. And by changing the type from mix to screen, you'll get back those sharp edges. And another thing I've forgotten, and that's I should have moved the light also to the layer on which the candle is. So let's do this by hitting M and moving it to the second layer. And if you render now, we should see that the specularity is coming back. And where is it? Where is it? Ah, here. See, that's okay. Everything is alright. So, final composite, way. Good. And now just one thing I'm still gonna add to the overall scene is I'm gonna work on the candle a little bit more. So let's move to the second layer. You can do this either by using the numbers of your keyboard. One is the first layer, second is the third, and so on. Or by clicking down here. And I select the candle, go into edit mode, and now I'm gonna choose this edge loop here with Alt and right click and scale it in a little bit, because this is the way at the edges of the inner edges of the candle usually look like. And now I'm gonna hit Shift Alt to add a second edge loop, the outer one, to our selection. And now Control G to create a group from these vertices. And what we're gonna do with this group is we're gonna add another modifier. This time it's a Displace Modifier. And we're gonna choose the vertex group, and as a texture to affect the modifier, we're just gonna create a new one on the wax material, which we're not gonna use on the wax. And let's increase the size to maximum. Yeah, this is looking about right. And now if we choose the newly created texture on our Displace Modifier, we should see some displacement, and by reducing the strength we can achieve something quite realistic. Yeah, that's pretty okay. And now let's do some final render. And I guess the candle will be pretty much finished by now. So, oh, wait a minute. Ah, haha. We should have used both layers. Now let's render once again. And now let's hope yeah, here we got the flame, the candle is rendered, and now let's wait for the composite. And wow, you know, should become pretty decent. Yeah. And if you render it out as an animation, you'll see that the candle, the flame is twitching very subtly, and this will really add to the realism of everything. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you learned a bit about the new features of the Blender 2.5 smoke simulation. Once again, a big thanks goes out to Mika, who created most of this patch, and Gensha, who created the initial smoke simulation and incorporated Mika's patch with some additional bug fixes. So I'm really happy this has happened, and I'm really looking forward to what's coming in the future of the Blender 2.5 smoke simulation. Bye!